I'm going to move on to Denise's question. I've been divorced now for 2 years after a 10-year marriage. I still don't feel like I've gotten over it. I want to start dating again, but I'm scared that I'll start going down a path with the wrong person again. What can I do to get over this feeling and move on with my love life? This is such a great question because there's so much in this. I'm going to really break it down. Okay. I've been divorced now for 2 years after a 10-year marriage. We're all kind of similar as highly sensitive people, but we're also all different. That's kind of the conundrum of how we are as a tribe. Okay. For some of us, we very well may grieve. I believe I grieved, okay, before we ever leave the marriage. So often I see highly sensitive people who are very surprised that once they kind of say the D word and they go, I am clear, I am ready, they often expect this big giant grieving process. And often that does not come for a highly sensitive person because often the highly sensitive person does not leave a long-term or a marriage relationship until they have tried everything they know and grieved it a lot. So often I'll see a highly sensitive person, and this is true of my story too, getting out of the relationship and feeling very weird or shocked or wrong or even judging themselves as cold or heartless, that they feel relieved and ready to move on very quickly. And then they feel very sheepish about, is it okay to move on? Is it not? Now, on the other side of that coin, many of us may have a very slow grieving process. A divorce is very much like a death. When you have the identity of being someone's wife, being someone's husband, of having a marriage, that is an entity that we have decided to birth into this universe, into the atmosphere. So when we decide to end that, something that we thought and hoped would be forever when we began it, that is very much like a death. And some of us go through a tremendous, not some of us, all of us go through that process. For some of us, it may be before the actual split. And for some of us, it may be after. So with all of my highly sensitive people, the task there is to really dig deep and get to know yourself. There may be information for you looking at other relationships, maybe even other work relationships, employer-employee relationships. If you went to college, that may be a 4 or, goodness, I think I spent 8 or 9 years at one college to get my undergrad and my master's degree. So we have other long-term relationships. This sounds goofy, but I had a short pixie haircut for all of my almost 8 or 9 years, almost a whole decade. I felt like I had a relationship with that style, that haircut. I felt like that was who I was. So as we move through and we let go of haircuts, of people, of marriages, of relationships, we are grieving sometimes as if there is a death. And that the time that takes is going to be different person to person. So for Denise, 2 years may be what it takes to kind of go through your grief process. If you look back at some of those other relationships, that might give you a hint. How long did it take to really feel like you were over it? Because isn't that a very weird thing in our culture? We all want to be over all the things, right? But my God, what does that mean to be over it? That's what a divorce will show you about yourself. Those are the lessons that are available. Okay. So Denise, as I go through this and as you move through this, you may realize you have more grief work to do, or you may realize, wow, I've actually done my grief work and I don't have to be so scared of this, and I can give myself some permission. Either permission to do some grief work, that might be writing and releasing, that might be some empty chair work with a therapist, that might be doing some reading, That might be doing some writing to yourself that says, hey, I've said goodbye to this. I give myself permission to move on and to start exploring what that looks like and what that feels like and what that means about me as a person. For a 10-year marriage, we're alive, what, 60, 70, 80, 90, maybe 100 years for some of us? It's a big chunk of life. We grow up in that time. We change, we evolve. So there's a lot to grieve there, not just the marriage.